All right, enough of that boring theory. Time to actually get our hands dirty and look at how to actually organize our customer research. We are getting ready for the big leagues, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a question I get a lot. So I'm going to show you how I do it using something I call the Customer Zukan document. You are going to learn finally what that strange word means. Now first, do you remember this? This is the broken iPod or IPTO that I used as an acronym to sum up identity, problems, dreams, and obstacles, which was basically my 4-step way of profiling a market. Now, it turns out that I have an easy acronym for organizing market research too. You ready? Here it is. GAMEBOYCOLOR. It is simple. I'm just kidding. It's actually a lot easier than that. Ready? Here it is. Wait, what? You can't read Japanese? Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I'm kidding. Again, okay, I will be serious now. I was actually serious about that. Those Japanese characters say Pokemon Zukan or Pokemon Zukan. And in English, we call that the Pokédex. I don't know if you ever played Pokemon. I loved Pokemon as a kid. And this means Pokemon Encyclopedia, literally. Pokemon Zukan means Pokemon Encyclopedia. But yeah, you probably know it as the Pokédex. And the premise was, it was this little index of sorts that had empty slots for each of the Pokemon. And your job was to go out and explore and fill it up. Well, I apply that same premise to organizing my market research. I have a blank document with empty slots that I am trying to fill up. And thus, I was going to call it a customer Pokédex. You kind of fill it out with your market research. But that is trademarked, and I didn't want Nintendo sending some legal Gyarados to bite my head off. So the term I use for myself is the Customer Zukan. I speak Japanese, so that's what I call it. You can call it what you want, but in my course, we're going to call it that. So how does it work? Well, it is a simple text document. Nothing fancier than that. Google Doc or Word Doc works fine. I use the Google Doc. I have seen people use spreadsheets for their market research, like, oh my gosh, kill me. As if market research, couldn't get any more intimidating. You could go and put it in a spreadsheet. Yay. You can do that if you want to, I guess, but I like the simplicity of a text document and the flexibility. And on that document, I have a simple list of different categories that I want to fill out, like my Pokédex, right? And they are identity, problems, dreams, and can you guess the fourth one? Obstacles. Yep, 1,000,000 points for you. Notes. I just call it notes, but that captures things like language I find, any thoughts I have, any insights I come up with, and stuff about the journey to this moment, and so on. Stories I get from the market. Any notes on the competition. And finally, if it's an existing product, I put down notes on why people did or didn't buy. And I literally have all those categories just listed out in a document, and I'm going to fill out stuff underneath. And not just those categories. I also add any other categories that make sense. I know that might sound a little bit like anything goes, but the truth is some categories are going to make sense sometimes, and I don't want to limit you. In fact, as you're going to see in one of the upcoming video demonstrations where I show you live how I do this, you will see I'm researching about anxiety, and I end up adding a new category to my list, which is, what does anxiety feel like? So in amongst all these, I mix in a new one. What does anxiety feel like? Because that makes sense. Because people end up describing anxiety in all these physical terms. So I decide, well, it makes sense to have a special category for that. And you're just going to have to do that sometimes. Now, note again that these categories don't go one-to-one with everything that I had in the theory section. There's nothing here on market awareness or market sophistication. And like I've said 1,000,000 times in this course, probably, this isn't all about checklists, okay? What I told you was just frameworks to help you understand people. If it helps you to put that stuff on your Customer Zukan document, knock yourself out. I just don't need to. So, how do you actually physically lay this out? Well, it looks like this when I do it. I actually have a Google Doc. It looks like this. And I have all those categories running down the document. Identity, problems, dreams, obstacles, notes, stories, competition, why did they buy and why didn't they buy. And then when I go to fill it out, there's only 2 things I will put into this document. The first is quotes. And by quotes, I mean real, exact words from the market. This is basically a compendium, Pokédex, a Zukan, full of just actual language I get from the market. Okay? The second thing that I put in, far less frequently, are notes. Things that stand out to me from my research. Patterns, observations. And again, in the videos that follow, you're actually going to get to watch me fill out this document in real time. You're going to watch over my shoulder, watch my screen as I do it. But here, in this video, is the basic process I use. So I will start with those general categories: identity, problems, dreams, obstacles, whatever, those higher level categories. They're there on my blank document. And then I'll start looking for quotes. Maybe I'm looking through surveys, or I'm looking through forums, or whatever I'm doing in my process, which I'll be going through. And I find a particular quote. Maybe I see someone saying, I'm sick of working for someone else. And I think that the idea behind that is that I want to be my own boss. Now, you might argue, look, it's phrased negatively, that should be a problem. I mean, whatever, you can interpret it that way. I've done this a lot, so I'm just going to say that the idea behind that there is I want to be my own boss. And so what I do is I make up this theme. I want to categorize different quotes together that have the same theme. So that I want to be my own boss thing, I make it a theme that I indent under the main category, dreams. And then under that, I indent the quote. And I'll keep looking, and maybe I find another quote which says, I realize that if I work twice as hard, do I make twice as much money? No, but my boss does. And so I will think that the idea from that is I want my hard work to pay off for me, not for my boss. So that's what I write there as the theme, and then underneath that I indent the quote. You can see how I'm keeping this organized using the indentations. And then I'll find another one that says my commute sucks, and I'll think, okay, that's a problem. I hate turning up to work every day. And I continue in this fashion, building it out with quotes that I find, and I gather similar quotes together. So you can see up the top there, under I want to be my own boss, now I have 2 quotes, which is why I put that first one there. So I find another one that says, I want to be my own boss, not have someone else do it. I think, okay, well, that's the same idea, so I stick those 2 together under the same indented theme. So I use those indentations to keep stuff organized. I will arrange everything around those themes, and I'm coming up with those themes. They're my words as the copywriter, as the market researcher. They're not language, but underneath those themes, I'm supporting them with real quotes. And that's really important. I want my research to be based on real quotes. I want to be able to look back at this document and see the exact words that people used. But I also want to have it organized neatly, and that's what those themes are there for. So I can look through and I don't get bogged in 5,000 words worth of quotes. I can just run my eyes over the themes that I have found. Now here is an example of a real one of these that I did. So as you can see, it gets kind of long and a bit messy, but I am indenting it. You can read on the left there, that's just blowing up the text, which is probably too small to read. So it impacts my relationships. Everyone thinks I'm coping really well, but I'm not. Going grocery shopping is hard. I struggle to get things done. They're themes that I come up with, and then I put all the quotes that support that underneath those themes. Now, here's something really important. You want to try as much as possible to avoid filtering. I try not to filter when I do this. If I see something interesting, I write it down. The point of that is that the points that come up over and over end up gaining more quotes beneath them, and they'll show me by their sheer size that they're a more universal pain. And that is a sort of democratic system which tells me what are the more shared pains in the market. Now, I don't just use that democratic system. I do use my judgment to identify if a pain is deeper or shallower. But if you do keep track of quotes like this, you can kind of get a sense for how much weight is behind each point, and you avoid being thrown off by just a single person who phrased something in one way, because there'll just be a single quote behind it, right? Okay, I use highlighting and underlines to identify important things. If there's a really cool quote or something that I think will be really cool on the sales page, I highlight it so it stands out to me. And another really important thing to note about this process, do not include any client research here. This is only a place for dealing with reality straight from the market's mouth. We're not going to mingle any client research in here unless the client actually gave us real quotes, but I generally don't trust them. to do that right. This is where I am getting hands-on, I'm looking for stuff, so I want to keep that separate so it doesn't get biased by things that the client thinks should be true, but aren't really. Now, you might be wondering, where are you actually going to get all these quotes? Well, that is what I am going to show you now, because we have just finished that third column there in the Market Detective system. Lucky for you, there was only one part in it. But now we're going to dive into the rest of our ethically lazy market research paradigm. And we're actually going to start looking at how I get out and about and start looking for quotes to put into this document. So let's dive into that.